Good afternoon, community. I call this Standing Committee for Public Safety at 4 o'clock on April 10th, 2025. I will start off with our land acknowledgement. The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated villages of Lisjan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationship with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. City Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Lopez,
Present.
Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Here.
Okay, just as a reminder for folks who may be joining in online, that the purpose of our committee, if you're unable to read it off the agenda online, is to serve in an advisory capacity to the City Council as a whole on matters pertaining to disaster preparedness, fire prevention and protection, emergency medical response, and law enforcement. Specifically, the committee will work collaboratively with city staff to review and provide recommendations to the City Council on disaster preparedness preparation and planning, including the city's CERT program, fire prevention annual inspection report, fire protection planning, emergency medical response annual report, volumes and response time, community policing and engagement, crime prevention, parking enforcement, emerging technology to enhance public safety services, and community safety. That said, we will now move on to item number 2, selection of committee chair. Does city staff have anything to report on that?
First of all, thank you and welcome to the Standing Committee. Given the two of you serving in this role, you are to pick amongst yourselves for a chair.
I'm happy to do it unless you want to.
We could duke it out, we could Rochambeau, or someone can just willingly volunteer. I prefer to go the peaceful route considering that the police are present. But yes, if you would like to volunteer to be the committee chair, I think that would be preferential considering your current capacity as vice mayor and then transition to mayor next year. I think that makes for good continuity of communication, particularly with our city staff.
Okay. You vote? You're still in charge.
Do I need to make that motion? Or
Sure, make a motion, but I don't need a second.
make a motion to appoint Vice Mayor Peggy McQuaid as the committee chair.
Mayor Lopez
Yes.
and Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Yes.
So the motion carries.
Do I take over from here? Okay, where are we? Public comment. This is the time for persons desiring to address the standing committee on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the committee's ability to take and/or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items may be referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council Member. My name is Larissa Cito, and I'm a new resident in Albany and really enjoying my time here in the community. I sent an email to the council on April 4th, and your chief very timely responded to me on Monday, even though I sent it Friday after hours, and I wanted to acknowledge that and thank staff for that. I had just sent an email because I had some concerns with regard to a notice that your city staff sent out about the state fire hazard maps, and that there was an interest in the city staff proposing a recommendation to have higher standards in Albany, even though the state fire hazard map didn't identify any areas of Albany as high fire hazard. And so I had some questions about how that process would go forward and what factors would be taken into consideration. And the chief responded and said there were a lot of factors being considered and there was nothing concrete yet at this time. And when I looked at the Albany General Plan, Chapter 8 Environmental Hazard Element discusses fire hazard dangers in Albany Hills, so I didn't know if there was going to be focus on that area or other areas of the community. And my particular concern is the notice that was sent out said that if Albany wanted to have an ordinance, it had to have an adopted ordinance by June 24th, and that had to be provided and submitted to the state fire marshal. And so just counting backwards from June 24th, I thought, well, unless you guys adopt something at your council meeting on June 23rd, by the time you have an introduction, a second reading, and adoption, I don't know how it could be timely discussed in any way for the community to have a chance for a lot of input unless this goes the first or second meeting in May. So I'm just raising these concerns and hope that staff will continue to keep the community advised as to what's going on and what's being considered, because if there's going to be consideration of higher standards here in Albany, I think the community would probably want to know what that's going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone online? Okay, item number 4, presentations, public safety presentation. We have the police chief here to give us his presentation.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you both. Thanks for having us here. So I'm going to give just a little overview of the police department and how we function and provide our police services to the city of Albany.
Chief, before you start, will we get a copy of this attached to the agenda? Great, I don't have to write so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So our mission for the police department is to provide the highest quality police services through efficient and professional services. And how we do that is, I would consider, somewhat complex. We have our core values that kind of drive our daily activity that we do. And then our culture, I think, is probably the biggest thing that drives our behavior and how we provide our services. And our culture really starts when we start hiring somebody. What we do is once somebody has made it past the first level of interviews, we then connect them with what we call a liaison officer who helps them navigate the hiring process and allows our officer to kind of get to know and interact with the individual a little more to kind of get an insight and make sure they're kind of somebody we're looking at. So it not only helps the applicant, but it helps us to learn a little bit more about somebody through a casual interaction. And then that continues that if they make it beyond the next interview, which is, or the next interview and all the background, then their first day at work, I sit down with them and have a conversation about my expectations, what the department is about, what the city's about. So we start fostering that culture at that conversation, and then when they go through field training, they learn more from their field training officer and their supervisors and other people they're working with. But for that all to work, we have to make sure we hire the right people. And I think we've put some really good measures in place to make sure we hire the right people, and and that we bring those people on board so they're not going to be counter to the culture I think we've established that really allows us to function as well as we do. Next slide. Our police department was established in May of 1927. We are funded for 26 sworn officers, and the police department is broken up into 2 divisions. We have the operations division and the support division. And this is our organizational chart. On the left-hand side is our operations division, which, to make it easy, it's overseen by a lieutenant, and the operations is pretty much everybody who wears a uniform on a regular basis. And it's patrol, which is really the backbone of our department. It falls under that division. And then we have 1 reserve officer now, and we have our parking enforcement division under there as well. All, again, wear uniforms. And then on the far right side, you see our support services, and those are the people who really provide service to help support the day-to-day running of the police department. They support patrol with our investigations division, our dispatch division, and our records division. Next slide. A little more on our operations division. We run 4 patrol teams. They work 12-hour shifts, starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 p.m., and then starting at 6 p.m., going to 6 a.m. When we are fully staffed, we ideally will have 1 sergeant and 4 patrol officers on the street, along with 2 dispatchers on duty. As I mentioned, we do have the 1 reserve police officer. They do not work a set schedule. They're volunteers, unpaid. They come in and work when they are available. They come in for call-outs when we need additional resources in an emergency. We have 1 currently who is actually going to retire on the 24th of this month after 42 years of service to the city. But we actually have somebody else we're looking to bring in who's going to come to us hopefully shortly. I think they're in background now. So hopefully that number stays the same. They're definitely a force multiplier and help us out in a pinch. We have our parking enforcement officers that work Monday through Saturday during the day. We currently have 3 parking enforcement officers and are working towards hiring a 4th. Our support services division, we have our detective division. Again, once fully staffed, we will have 1 sergeant and 2 detectives, and they do a lot of the follow-up and legwork that the patrol officers don't do. They'll help on complex search warrants. They liaison with the DA's office to go over prosecutions on cases and present cases to the DA's office. Then we have our communications center where we have 8 dispatchers, so 2 on duty for each team. We not only dispatch for Albany Police and Fire, we also dispatch for Kensington Police Department, and then any fire calls that come in for Kensington, those are routed to Contra Costa Fire for their dispatch. Our dispatch also transfers medical calls to the medical, I'm drawing a blank on what it's called, our medical, ACRAT, yeah, but what's the initial or acronym for it? It's pre-arrival. So if somebody calls up and they reporting somebody, let's say is having chest pain, they'll dispatch fire, but then they do a warm handoff to another dispatcher who will talk to people about how to care for somebody and monitor them, or if they need to provide life-saving techniques, they'll talk them through that. Then we have 1 police services technician. They run our property room and also provide a lot of IT support for us currently. Then we have our records division, and they handle processing all of our police reports to get them ready to go to court. They also review them. They respond to all our public records requests and get those handled in a timely manner. And then we have 1 administrative specialist who provides support for myself and our 2 lieutenants. Some of the key issues that we have faced and continue to face is staffing. I will say we are doing very well. When we compare ourselves to other agencies, we are currently only down two police officer positions. We are very fortunate we have a full dispatch center. Other departments are really struggling in both areas. And then retention, because there are a lot of departments that are hiring and people can get jobs closer to home that maybe have higher salaries or provide other benefits. So it's important for us to make sure we focus on our staff internally that they're happy and stay with us. I believe we have a good public trust, and it's important that we continue to build on that and maintain that as we move forward. And then we also have a community that has high expectations, and we try to meet those every day. But when you're running limited staffing, it can be a challenge, but we do our best to be as responsive as we can. Also, with the limited budget, it limits how many officers we can have and some of the resources we can have to provide services. Another key issue, as I'm sure you're all aware, is officer and dispatch mental health and wellness. You want the people working for you, in particular in this job, to be mentally fit and come to work in a positive means. They have to not only balance the challenges they face at work, but we're all human beings and we have families at home, and we have to deal with issues at home and leave those at home when we come to work. So we also want to make sure we're maintaining an awareness of them and helping individuals who may need a little extra attention have resources. Some of the future initiatives would be working on a community academy to help get some of the community members to learn more about policing and our police department. We also continue to look at new technology and tools that will improve how we respond to crime, how we help prevent crime. Kind of a similar, a new thing, as you know, is we deployed Flock recently, and we're finding that to be a positive tool for us. And then I'm very well aware there's an interest in us greening our fleet, which is something that we are not opposed to. It just has to actually function for us. There is a lot of infrastructure that needs to get put into place, and there are budget issues because going green is going to cost a fair amount of money because it's not a standard industry yet for us. But that is something that is on our radar, and we will continue to look at. And then again, kind of looking at other innovative ways of looking out for our officers for mental health and wellness. These are some of the community outreach programs we do. Coffee with the Cops is probably the one we do fairly frequently. Our park and walks, those are events where we just encourage officers who are on regular patrol to park either in a neighborhood or on San Pablo or Solano and just walk the block and be a presence, check in with people who are out on the street and just engage in regular conversation. We have our Albany Police Activities League, which we're not really doing a lot with other than we help kind of fund some programs through the city for people. We provide scholarships for some of the programs there. Our Elderly Education and Engagement Program, we will put on training for like at the Senior Center, or we've done things at Belmont Village. We have our technology where we reach out with our crime graphics, our community notification, and our area coordinator program where we've broken up the city into 4 different beats, and we have a sergeant assigned to each one, and people can email to their coordinator if they're having an issue, and then the sergeant will be responsible for taking care of that issue and trying to get the issue resolved for the person. And then our biggest community outreach thing is that every time we have an interaction with somebody, that is an opportunity for us to engage with the community, and it is it's just a great opportunity to help people understand who we are and what we do for the community. And this is just a little snippet of our activity from January to March. As you can see, we had about 117 property crimes. Our violent crime, we had 20. Our dispatch center handled 1,202 calls. We provided 1,755 extra patrols or security checks, and those are locations where we maybe got out and walked an area or just drove through an area that we've experienced criminal activity in, or just even like our parks where we want to provide an extra presence. And then we've handled 449 reports. We've issued 273 citations, handled 56 collisions, and conducted 112 community engagement events. In that, we did a Coffee with the Cop in February, and then we also put on a elderly scam and identity theft awareness course at the Senior Center in January. And then we also did a crime scene demonstration up at Albany High School. And then we also had 13 training courses that people attended. It doesn't mean 13 people went to courses. It means we just sent people to 13 courses, so we probably had more than 13 people go. But some of the notable classes, we sent 2 officers to crisis intervention training. Almost our entire department went through their CPR and first aid training. We were trying to reenact our hostage negotiation team, so we sent people to training for that. We have one person going to the Alameda County Leadership Program, And then we sent another officer to a Inner Perspectives Leadership Program that's a multi-month program. And just to give you a little overview of our general training, the state requires us to get 24 hours of training every 2 years. That's mandated, and it covers like a perishable skills area, which is going to cover our range, driving, arrest and control, and strategic communication and use of force training. So those are mandated ones that we have to do, and then we try to provide some enrichment around that, because that's 24 hours is not a lot of training in 2 years to mandate. And I think that is it.
Do you have any questions? I have a couple. We got an email a week or so ago about the program for people with autism, or relating to people with autism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the Carter kits?
Okay, I was going to say Carter Kids.
So we, it is a new program, and we will be doing our training later this month. The officer who is kind of taking the lead on that has been off for a little bit and is due back next week, I believe. And so he will be training us on it. And that program, we purchased these bags that have a lot of tactile items in there. There's like a heavy blanket. There's some like kind of the fidget tools. There's earmuffs and a few other things that help if an officer is engaging with somebody who has autism, to help calm them and provide them some soothing comfort so they can get through the incident.
Great, thank you. Do you still carry like stuffed animals in your cars for children that, again, it could be a reassuring thing?
The Care Bears, right?
Is that what they are?
We still
Okay.
have those, yes.
And I want to thank you for also looking into the Blue Envelope program. I learned about that, and I thought it was really a good thing to look at.
Sure.
At the high school, you used to do and I can't remember the initials, but the freshman class.
Well, we did.
Yeah, I got that far. I got the IH.
Yeah, IHS. And I don't think since COVID, I don't think we've gone up there to do that program. We've really continued with the crime scene program up there.
Great. I know the kids like that one.
Yes.
And I guess my last question is talk a little bit about not only the staff mental health, but, we had the support from the mental health program for a while, and I know that didn't work out as well as we had all hoped. Is there thoughts of how to engage in that again, or different model, or?
I would say we've had discussions, myself and the lieutenants, a little bit about it, of what it looks like. I have reached out to the county CAT team, who they provide our services now, and tried to get them to see if they would, if they would house a unit here, but I was not successful in doing that. So, but I think it's an ongoing conversation to have.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just kind of going back to some of the training stuff, our officers get trained in critical incident or crisis intervention training. So they're getting that training. They're, oftentimes dealing with people in crisis on a daily basis. So they have a lot of good skills for it, but I think it is a good resource for us to continue to pursue.
Thank you.
I do have a couple questions. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate the overview and perspective. I'll just go down in parallel order in which you had presented things. Around key issues, you had mentioned issues and concerns around staffing, recruiting, and retention, and how we're currently down 2 officers. I wanted to know if you could perhaps in this moment maybe give us insight or elaborate on what you personally feel as being the leader of the department, what some of those key issues might be and why we may have issues in filling those roles, or if it's just something across the board nationally that we're experiencing.
It's definitely something nationally across the board that people are finding a challenge for people to come into this career. Like I said, we're doing better than a lot of other departments are doing, but I think when you focus on, you're taking care of your people, and again, a lot of it is culture. I had people recently talk to me about they commute all the way in here because they really value how they're treated here, and that is a big piece of it is people want to come here because they've seen what it's like. We've recently been fortunate to hire some people from other departments, and it is great to hear the energy and recognition that they have of this is a completely different place than where they worked. So I think that's what we have as a benefit, and that's why we're probably, one of the reasons we have low vacancy rates right now. But there are other departments who maybe pay more, have a less of a commute, and those are things we have to be cognizant of, right? Because money's not everything and benefits aren't everything, but it's a piece of that puzzle, so it's important we're paying attention to those.
I hear that, and I appreciate that. And I think that's probably a good segue into one of my additional questions around your point around prioritizing mental health and wellness for your team. And I was curious if you could share like how that is accomplished or how that's supported internally. Or is there specific language within their contract that affords them those resources, or is there something that we as community leaders should be advocating more for to ensure that?
Thank you for asking, and thank you for being concerned, because that's a big concern of mine, right? We want our people to be healthy. And so what we have through the city, we have an EAP program, and then on top of that, we also have our peer support team that is officers, dispatchers who go to peer support training, so they're here to help provide support for somebody if they're going through a challenge. We have that. We also have a chaplain here who is available for conversations and support. And then we also have an app that officers can log into, and it's somewhat interactive. It's not the most interactive, but it does provide them some tests that they can kind of see where they're at. And then on top of all of that, if we have like a critical incident, which we've had a few, I mandate that the people involved in it actually go to a session with somebody, and everybody will go as a team who is working there. And then if there's additional follow-up that somebody needs, we make sure we provide that as well. And that's something I mandate. That way somebody doesn't have to feel like, I have to go and I can't say anything, right? Everybody has to go, and there's no shame in going.
No, I appreciate that transparency and sharing, and the certain level of accountability there, and the efforts to make it not seem like it's taboo to address these issues. And the reason I say that I felt like it's a good segue is because you had mentioned sometimes people come here, want to work here because of the community and the culture. I guess additionally, moving down that train of thought, still around key issues, you had highlighted to continue and maintain further public trust. And I was curious if you could elaborate on what any of the root causes might be, or in your opinion, with community trust here in Albany, or concerns of community trust in Albany, if you feel it exists. And two, has there been any previous attempt to gauge or to quantify level of community trust? Have we surveyed residents in the past, and do we have like a calibration point of where we feel people are at with community policing?
So I don't think we've ever polled people, but I tend to look at how we operate, and I look at complaints, lawsuits, emails to council, emails to the city manager. Those are my gauge of how things go. I also gauge it on interactions I have with community members on a casual basis to kind of have pulse checks of where we are with them. So those are kind of some of those, I guess, intangible things that you kind of look at and say, I think we're doing pretty well, and that you're not having people show up at council meetings upset.
No, I hear that. You haven't gotten a hot email from me yet during my tenure, so that's probably a good thing. And then around future initiatives, you had highlighted the desire to go green and to green the fleet. And you had acknowledged that right now it's not a standard industry yet in law enforcement. I think I have a good idea of what that means, but for maybe folks who are listening in on the meeting or maybe listening on recording afterward, can you elaborate on what it not being a standard industry means?
Sure. So for standard industry, it's things that I would say are kind of turnkey for us, like the hybrid Ford Explorers. Those are pretty standard. Most police departments carry those. When you go to outfit them, there's push bars that are already designed for them. There's radio holders inside that are designed for them. There's the cage that are designed for them. Our cars have bulletproof in the doors. If you go to where some departments have gone with Teslas, you have to modify equipment. You have to find vendors who are actually outfitting the cars for that. There are some challenges. They have an all-glass ceiling in the ones they use, and we have people who like to kick out windows. So that would not be, it's moving in that direction to go electric, but it's not something that's really turnkey for us, if that makes sense.
Well, that makes sense, and I appreciate that explanation. And then,
To just along those lines, like we can go to a gas station and fill up. We don't have charging station. That's a whole infrastructure that has to be put in place.
and I appreciate you acknowledging that the lack of infrastructure, lack of it being standardized could be an issue. My last question is just around community outreach. You had highlighted several things that are rather consistent still, and I think you had quite the list of activities that have happened or you would like to happen. Are there events that haven't been so consistent in the past that you would like to bring back? And if so, like, why? What is the driving purpose and how that would benefit community relationship and overall community policing?
Yeah. So I think one of them a little bit is like our APAL program. We used to, when I started here, APAL, we would go play basketball with kids, actually over at the village, and that was it was fun. I mean, you had different interactions. You were playing with the kids, and it was a completely different setting. You weren't in uniform, and then we provided we had wrestling programs, and it's just unfortunately with the way staffing has been for us to have people to manage that, it's been difficult. So a program like that would be nice to see come back. We had done a bike rodeo for a few years that was actually run by one of our reserves, but again, it kind of became a sap on our resources, and with limited resources, when you're already having people come in to cover just regular patrol to say, hey, I need you to work another on a Saturday or a Sunday, that's normally your day off, it became a challenge.
All right, thank you. I actually have one more question. You had provided some really solid data on the police department dashboard over the last several months. I did think is quite the highlight to me that only 273 citations have been issued over the past 90 days, which is quite counter to what I tend to hear and see on social media, people saying, oh, the parking enforcement just rattling all of us up and down Solano Ave. I know nobody liked getting citations, but to see that it averages out to about 3 a day was interesting to see that it doesn't quite line up with some of the narratives I often hear. So I thank you for sharing that data. But on the line of data, I know maybe this doesn't really fall in line with the statistic coming from the department, but I was curious if you had any information or any reports of complaints against the police department in 2025 so far?
Don't think so. Offhand, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone online with questions? No one's online? Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you very much, Chief. And now we have Chief Boito from the Fire Department.
Good afternoon. Also a pleasure to see you all here. And a chance to talk about our fire department and EMS. I'm Jim Boito, fire chief. We'll go ahead and start talking about our fire department, a little bit about our value statements. We feel our mission is to protect and enhance the quality of life and environment of our community by providing emergency medical services, fire suppression, public education, fire prevention, emergency services, emergency preparedness. We strive to do this in a professional manner that's progressive, compassionate, as an all-risk department, and we look to exceed our community's expectations. We were established in 1909, originally as a volunteer organization with a paid fire chief, literally running calls out of a shed that housed our hose cars you pulled them near where Cornell School is at this time. We have 22 sworn and 1 full-time fire inspector and a part-time fire inspector. Both of them are civilian positions. We have the you can see our org chart. There's a fire captain and a fire lieutenant, followed by 2 fire engineers or apparatus operators, and then 3 firefighter paramedics. Recently, 2 years ago, that went from 2 to 3, thanks to the funding of Measure K from the citizens of Albany and the hard work of the council to get that initiative passed. So our daily staffing is 7 people, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We staff our paramedic engine company with 3 people, our paramedic truck company with 2, and our paramedic ambulance with 2 firefighter paramedics. We run the truck and the ambulance together on the first medicals, and that leaves our 3-person engine company to handle the second medical or second call in district, waiting for either another ambulance to come in or they're handling a fire-related call or rescue-related call on their own. We're in 2 divisions, the administrative and the operations. The administration side houses our training, our public education, our community preparedness resiliency program, which deals with our CERT and the EOC and EOP parts of emergency preparedness for the city. And then our fire prevention bureau is in there as well. They do our commercial inspections, plan checks for new construction and significant remodels, and then our vegetation management program, which we just ramped up, and we sent 42 letters out just day before yesterday, actually. And then our operations side is the response side. So the fire suppression, emergency medical services, or EMS, with our ambulance transport. We're very lucky. We're one of 4 cities in the county that has what we call 201 rights, which gives us our own exclusive operating area that cannot be removed from us. We'd have to voluntarily give it up, which would be one of the worst decisions ever. The level of service our community receives from it is very high, and our response times are very quick, less than 4.5 minutes throughout the city. And we have our hazardous materials program for those types of responses, where we go up to what is called a first responder operational. So we're able to cordon it off, keep people from getting in, and then start the process of getting an actual technical team here from either Berkeley, Richmond, Oakland, or Alameda County to handle any kind of actual mitigation of whatever release it is. And our special operations is our vehicle extrication, because it's a special skill, our water rescue program, our technical rescue, so basically low-angle rope rescues that we've done out at the bulb and then on our hill numerous times. Water rescue, we haven't had any this quarter, but last year we had 4 responses, and we do that in coordination with Berkeley Fire. So we have paddle boards. We're getting new hard paddle boards right now. We have the inflatables. So soon you'll see on the new engine, you'll see one mounted up above. But it is a rescue board. It's not for surfing or any other recreational activities. And then we have our tactical response team. Our folks are trained to deal with intentional multi-casualty incidents, so active shooter type situations. We train regularly with our police department so that we're a cohesive team on those high-risk, low-frequency events. Our Fire Prevention Bureau is very busy. We did, last year we had 476 commercial inspections, 347 multi-unit residential inspections. The commercial inspections are handled by the fire inspectors, and the residentials are handled by the engine and the truck companies. Our main goal is to save lives. So for us to do that effectively, when we go into buildings we're not in that often in the dark, usually it's at night, it's good for us to be familiar with the apartment condo complexes. So we have the engines and trucks go there so they can walk around there in a relaxed setting, make sure there's a high degree of fire safety and life safety as well, as far as the building for balconies and stairwells and stuff, because we check those also. We do commercial and residential construction related inspections. So we did over 60 last year. Excuse me. Those are usually comprised of 2 inspections. There's the rough-in inspection and then the final before a certificate of occupancy is issued by the building official. The 42 weed abatement inspections, all told, it's just under 4,600 hours of inspections between all of these annually. One of the mandates that came from the tragic Ghost Ship fire was Senate Bill 1205, which mandated certain inspections. So high-rise schools, apartment buildings with 3 or more units. So those are Group E for educational and Group R for residential. And you can see that last year we completed all the required inspections for 100% compliance. Our community preparedness and resiliency program, I like to call it the other form of CPR. We teach first aid and CPR training, traditional CPR training. We have our disaster preparedness coordination. So we have our city's CERT program that we manage, and then the CERT training that we work in coordination with Albany CERT hand in hand. We have an MOU with them that spells out how our relationship works. It's very strong, and they've been a great help in helping to get the neighborhoods organized to be more resilient to the disasters that it's not if, but when. And then we coordinate with the UC Village and their disaster preparedness folks and make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them have the highest level of preparedness and resiliency also. And then with the emergency operations plan, we help put it together for the city, and then we're kind of the central hub for training along with the assistant city manager. We coordinate the training across all departments and the coordination of when things are happening, and then the trainings and scenario drills and full-scale exercises. So that's happening this year. Throughout this year, we'll be going from the familiarization of each portion of the EOP that departments would be traditionally responsible for handling, and then we'll go into the application of that in a simulated real-world type a tabletop exercise. Our key issues are very similar with the responder mental health, resiliency, and wellness. Our patient offload times, or APOT, also known as hospital wall times. The impact of the taller buildings on our limited resources. And then our entry-level recruitment. Some of the initiatives that we're working on is our first responder mental health resiliency program. We have 6 members that have gone through peer support training. We work closely with our neighboring departments and their peer support so that they can lean on each other for in times of need. When we would go help Berkeley if they had a critical incident, or Piedmont when they had their incident with the Cybertruck. Our electric fire prevention vehicle is going to be coming this, if the budget's approved. It will be one of our initiatives to have an electric vehicle in our fleet. For us, we are in a similar situation in the police department where it's a heavy lift to depend on what is still considered newer technology in fire apparatus, especially ladder trucks and engines. Having something that's going to be there, reliable, and always charged up and ready to go is difficult for a single station department. Larger cities like Los Angeles have 1 or 2 engines out of their 200 plus engines. There isn't an electric aerial or ladder truck yet, so that isn't really an option for us. And then with ambulances, they're not quite there yet as well. And then we also run into the same infrastructure issues with charging and the right capacity within the station to keep the ambulances and the engines up and charged. But we are looking at things. We did our last 2 our recently purchased engine and put in service, engine 1, and the aerial firefighter apparatus that was approved by council 2 meetings ago do incorporate idle reduction technology, so that when we're on a scene, they don't just idle, they'll stop, and they won't run because they have the batteries there. So that does help with our emissions. And then we use renewable diesel. That's a non-petroleum product that burns very clean, cleaner than unleaded fuel, even the new fuels. And according to the literature, the only fuel that has less emissions is an electric vehicle. So we're right there and doing the best we can with what we have. Recruitment and outreach. We have a recruitment team now, and they will go out to CalJack events and staff a table to get the word out about Albany Fire. We are a small department, and we're a unique draw, to say the least. We have a lot of the different pieces that all of the other fire departments around us that are larger have, but we don't really have a specialty where I'm going to be a hazmat person, or I'm going to be just on the truck, or just on the heavy rescue. So we wear a lot of hats, or I guess multiple helmets in our case, and that we will get that unique person. We also transport, which is a draw. A lot of paramedics that are coming to us that weren't in the fire service really like the concierge service of going from someone's home and taking them all the way to the hospital and transferring that care to the doctor or the charge nurse. So that they're sometimes rare to find. When we do, they really enjoy the atmosphere and culture of the department. So that is really nice to see. And then we're also looking at new technology and tools to improve safety and services for the community. Our dashboards, all kinds of information. It is a little bit busy, but it looks at our overall first quarter incidents, and I compared them, at least that group, to last year. We're a little bit behind last year. It's been, which is not the worst thing. It's a good thing, because usually when we're getting called, just like the police department, there's a crisis and there's an emergency that's overwhelm the resources that someone has at their house. But you can see we 15 fire-related calls, 345 emergency medical calls, hazardous conditions. That can be anything from a gas leak to an actual hazardous material spill. We have our calls for service, which could be a lift assist. We have our good intent calls. That includes some cancellations. Could be in there, so we get dispatched and, oh, never mind, it's not an emergency, you don't need to respond. That could also be, I smell something kind of weird, and it's, who knows what it is, not smoke or fire, not an emergency. And there are false alarms and false calls, so those are dealing with fire alarm panels and smoke. The alarm's going off for either steam, burnt toast, or sometimes with the bad weather, the water will leak through the roof or something and cause the circuits to go off. You can see with our medical calls, we are transporting 2/3 of the time to the hospital. And then some of the other different pieces of, we may evaluate them and pass them off to another unit. That would mainly be our ambulances out of the area on another call. So we'll utilize Berkeley or Piedmont or AMR or Falk. And then they may not want to go to the hospital. The AMA means that we really wanted them to go to the hospital, but it's their choice, even if it's a bad choice, in our opinion, in the base hospital's opinion, they still get to make that decision. And with the AMAs, we're calling Highland Hospital to get advanced or more a higher level of medical knowledge and abilities from a doctor. Up in the upper right, you can see what we receive for mutual and auto aid. The auto aid just means that we have a formal agreement, a written agreement, and then mutual aid is called as needed. So the auto aid is, for instance, we have a agreement with the City of Berkeley to fill out the balance of our first alarm assignment, which is 3 engines, 2 trucks, an ambulance, and a battalion chief. So that's what the auto aid type thing is, or situation is. We gave mutual aid or auto aid 72 times and received it 46 times. The chart, or the chart with the bars, that's kind of the call dispersion through the days of the week. So there isn't really one day that's super busy compared to another. It's pretty steady. And then on the bottom is our ambulance information. It shows our overall response times. They're holding steady at under 5 minutes. So 4 minutes and 47 seconds on average. Our time on task, when we go on a call, that means that from when we leave to the call and get back to the station after dropping someone off at the hospital, or excuse me, releasing and getting cleared from the hospital, is 1 hour, 9 minutes. Our average time that we're waiting on the wall, or as what we say is on the wall, but the APOT time is 34 minutes, which is down considerably from a couple years ago, where we were up in the 50-minute range. So that part's good. The emergency rooms are doing a good job of getting patients through and releasing our ambulance. So we're roughly 12% of the time our ambulances are transporting or involved in a transport of a patient to the hospital. Questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Sorry in advance if I end up grilling you more than I grilled the police department. I had a couple quick questions and then maybe a couple more in-depth questions. You had mentioned for operations, Special Ops does several different types of training: vehicle extraction, water rescue, technical, and tactical. Really happy to hear that you train regularly with the police department around tactical responses. Around water rescue, because I have seen some pretty dope images and highlights on your squad out there in the water, highlighting training. I'm curious, how often does your staff have training for water rescue?
They're training actually in the bay 4 times a year. So quarterly training, we're actually in the water. There'll be other trainings that might be tabletops talking about techniques and trends. And they've also utilized the Albany pool in the past to get some pool time when it's inclement out in the bay, when it's bad.
Well, thank you. That you inadvertently answered my follow-up question about accounting for different seasons of the year. So thank you for that, and I'm happy to hear that there are quarterly trainings. Around community and preparedness and resiliency, you had highlighted coordination with UVA, University Village Albany at UC part of UC Berkeley's property. I'm aware that your team comes during the annual safety fair at the UC Village. Those who are in attendance and unaware, I live in the UC Village. My chief of staff, who's the ball of chaos that's now 2 years old, tend to enjoy when he gets to pretend like he's putting out a fire. I can say, like, from my direct experiences, been worthwhile learning a bit about like basics around cooking, and especially for a teenager who maybe might not be aware of like where pot handles should be situated and things like that. Little advice goes a long way, which we do appreciate. I'm curious if there's anything beyond participation in that annual event that I should be aware of or that the community should be aware of, because beyond that, to be honest, I don't really hear much of anything else going around happening in the village for residents around preparedness.
We are in coordination with it started with the UC's emergency manager. They just had a new permanent, a brand new emergency manager for the whole campus, I believe in January, or a little bit late, maybe a little bit before. My staff has met with them, and we're working behind the scenes to help them. We want to be there to augment what they have, to find out what their capabilities are, what their plans are for the students there, and then how we can support them from 2 sides. The training and the preparedness, getting prepared and educating the folks that live there, who are also, the people that we protect as well.
Yeah.
So there are people too. But so not only on the preparation and the education side, but then also coming up with ways to house resources and supplies so that that quadrant of the city has the tools and the structure they need to be self-sustained for that 72 to 120 hours that they're talking about from the FEMA side of things. So we're in that planning process right now. It can be slow going, but the progress that we're making is meaningful. So that part's great. Captain Tim Smizer is in charge of that program for me, and he's in regular communication with the director. I believe it's the UC director, or the village director.
Happy to hear that. And I'm curious, now me being aware of that information, is there intent for Albany Fire Department to perhaps give UC Village residents or staff recommendations or suggestions to be more fire resilient, or working directly with community members, or is that completely out of your bounds and something UC should be taking on?
We did do some training with the UC Village staff on CERT training. So we gave them a very high-level hybrid class in the fall of last year to get them up to speed on what they needed to worry about, what they needed to organize within the village, and what resources they should be drawing from the main campus. And that was an educational part for us to figure out, what do you have at your disposal? So we're building off of that. Our goal is to help them do safety fairs and help them beyond the safety fair, but help them develop their safety or public education program revolving around fire and disaster preparedness safety. It would be, with the limited staff that we have, it would be a very big undertaking. We have engaged with Albany CERT, and they are also looking at helping the village and getting training going there as well to kind of spread that word and those knowledge, skills, and abilities to be more resilient by being better prepared.
No, definitely, and I think a lot of that would require some of the onus to be put on the UC around making it accessible for folks in the village to be able to do training. Many of us are student parents, and we just don't have time or the capability to leave our young ones, because then that leave them alone at the house, because then that can create a fire danger. But I think there's a lot to be said there around potential collaboration that we could all broker there with the UC to make happen. And I guess this is a good segue to, and sorry, I'm a little hyper-focused on the UC. I just want to make sure that there's clarity for folks who are listening in, because there's a lot of information that I'm aware of, but maybe there's an opportunity for the public to also be aware of as well. When you had highlighted data on your dashboard, do you, right at the top of your head, have numbers on how much of that was actually occurring on UC property for those calls, whether it's Belmont Village, UC Village, Sprouts Parking Lot, Giltrack Farm?
I don't have that number, but it's held fairly steady, depending if we include Belmont or not. Including Belmont, it's a little over 15% of our call volume. Not including Belmont, it's held steady right around 8%. So I would venture to say roughly 8% of those calls would be there, would be in the UC Village or University Village.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
So what would you say the biggest challenge for Albany Fire is? And then secondly, nationally, what's the biggest challenge for fire departments?
It is, for us, nationally, it's recruitment and getting people interested in this profession, vocation. And then on the national level, that is affecting Albany as well, is the delivery time for fire apparatus. A ladder truck an engine used to take a little bit more than a year and a half, and ours was over 2 years. The one that we've received already, the ladder truck would have been about 2 years, and we're looking at 4 years from now. So that's putting a huge strain on all fire departments nationally. For Albany Fire, it's getting our staffing up, but that also comes with space within the state. So the space of the station, the places to put vehicles. We're growing, and we're a small city that doesn't have much space to. The space that we have. There's competition between housing, open space. There's limited space means everyone needs a piece of it. But for us, it's the staffing piece, the what's going to happen at Golden Gate Field. The funding piece as well. I don't know if that's probably a city as a whole, but being able to recruit people, have a place to house them, and then also be able to pay for them to be here.
Are you fully staffed now, or Chief Geisberger said they're down to sworn. Where are you in that sort of continuum?
We're fully staffed we're fully staffed.
You don't hear those words together very often. Nice to hear. Can you talk a little bit more about the CERT program? I know they've become their own independent nonprofit, which is great, but how you interact together?
We have a very good relationship with the CERT, Albany CERT leadership, And it's been that way since the inception of Albany CERT. They are kind of our eyes and ears, and now they're training. So the functional part of training people and keeping the program going, they are they're being innovative. They're being responsive to the citizens. They're looking for areas we can strengthen things, and they're providing ideas and plans on a method to do that. And then they're doing the actual training piece and organizing piece for us. So they've been a huge help, a vital piece to our CERT program for the city. And they also understand the limitations of a smaller city that does as many things as Albany does at a high level across all departments. They understand that they need to be a little bit more on their own with things. For instance, they recently received a grant from Listos for the dual English as a second language type CERT training. That was an initiative that we talked about, we being myself, Captain Smizer, and Blake. We talked about that a little over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, like, oh, wouldn't that be great? Well, lo and behold, here we are. So they've been fantastic. We're getting ready to roll out a block captain refresher and reorganization with folks so that we can have the blocks a little bit more organized and be an even stronger advocate for the city at a time of need. So that it's been wonderful.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Did anybody hop on? Well, thank you both for coming and for your staff for being here. We appreciate it. And with that, we'll move to announcements. Do you have any announcements? I have no announcements. Are there any staff announcements?
Happy to share what we're looking forward to conversating about at your upcoming meeting will be a summary more in depth on disaster preparedness, next steps, the critical role of the city council, trainings for both the community and every level of the organization, and get some feedback on that important and critical topic.
All right, with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all.